With respect to the peculiarities of the hair, some of these change more slowly than the color of the skin, right? So far, however, as its color is concerned, that is of less value than what we have been considering, since it is very common to see German with hair of the most unlike hues, but the texture of the hair has been supposed to exhibit a permanent distinction. This, however, differs from the others only in degree. In degree. For the Negro, or to use a common and more proper expression, the African race, right, exhibits every variety of structure, from the most crisp to curling and flowing locks. Microscopic examination has shown that the most crisp human hair does not differ a whit in structure from the most straight, the matting property of wool, arising from small notches in the hair, being absent in both. The term woolly, indeed, must have been applied to the African hair by persons who were acquainted only with the wool of one kind of sheep. For in this ovine race, the wool is often straighter than crisp. Now, how was the Lord described? All right. The reason why I wanted to read a bit more of this, right? How was our Lord described? Remember, Revelations chapter 1. Revelations chapter 1, right? Right. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, Revelation chapter 1, verse 13, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were what? White like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. The only people, right? And remember, this book was written in 1850, right? Here was described as woolly is who? The so-called black man, the so-called Negro. The term woolly, indeed, must have been applied to the Africans here, right? The Africans got the same hair as the Israelites, right? And he's talking about, remember, we Israelites were living amongst the Africans mainly on the West Coast. And he's talking about the people of Guinea in particular, which were the Israelites that lived on the West Coast, right? So he is telling you that the term woolly indeed must have been applied to, when it says the Africans here, he might as well have just written the Israelites here, because that's who those people were on the West Coast, by persons who were acquainted only with the wool of one kind of sheep. This is why we're always referred to as the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? For in the ovine race, the wool is often straight then crisp. So he's telling you here, just like it says here, this, however, differs from the others only in decree. For the Negro, the Israelite, or to use a common or more proper expression, the African race exhibits every variety of structure, from the most crisp to the curling and flowing locks. And the woolly hair was the most common type of hair that our people had, right? Just so you know. So when we talk about our Lord as well, the Lord is described here. His head is white as wool. His hairs on his head were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes was a flame of fire. And his feet were like unto fine brass, as if they were burned in a furnace. What is brass? Brass is the same color as copper, right? And his voice is sound of many waters. We also read here, when he was talking about the, up here, when he says here, he says, the elevated regions of the interior, or pass into southern Africa, we find the very same race of various shades of brown, from a dark mahogany to what? To a light copper. Copper is what? Copper is the same color as brass. So the Lord is described with that copper brass color. And his feet were like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. Hence, so there's nothing that they can get away from trying to tell you who the children of Israel are.